Reflections, Video 3. Here's the neutral. This is burnt sienna and cobalt blue. You can push it blue or you can push it brown. I'm going to push it blue. So we're going to go ahead and just solidify what's going on. In the water. This does take some concentration, so I'm slowing down a bit. Because at this point we want the boat reflections in the water and the water to make sense. I have a lot of paint already on the painting. So it doesn't take much to add paint at this point. I do adjust my colors as I move through the painting. I find it comforting to know that I can do that I don't have to worry about putting a color down and being stuck with it. I'm darkening up over here. And I am working slow. I can soften some of that a little later, but for now, I'm gonna let that dry. Okay, so we are gonna come out here to the front of the boat. And try to see it correctly. Dragging the paint where we want it to go. This fills in with blue, and we can soften that burnt sienna right here. So again, I'm just letting you know that this is a slow process and you want to take your time. All this has to make sense. as we move toward the foreground. We're going to cover some of this. Well, I've already softened it. Adding the blue over top of the burnt sienna. And back out here to the front of the boat. And darkening that. Okay. It's important that my brushwork not look all the same, that I'm varying the brush strokes on the paper. And I'm very happy with this color, by the way. It's just the right value, the right color. So we're going to leave that alone. Now there's this strong pattern in the water. I'm trying to figure it out, but it goes something like this. I'm using a big arm, and what I mean by a big arm is I'm using my shoulder, my arm, and I'm not getting tight with these brush strokes. I'm letting them be fluid. This creates the motion in the water, and we want that. We want to see all these ripples. And just soften as we go. Just a little bit, you know, on those edges. All right, so a little more than that. Okay, so now what we have would be And this is the bridge. This is where we bridge them together. All right. And we see more of these ripples. All right, now what I want would be to work the negative space around the reflection. So we've got the front of the boat. I can drop a little more in there. And now we're going to start to build with negative painting. I'm going to go with this. It looks like I pushed it outward. Okay, moving downward. And there's still ripples showing themselves. Now keep in mind the ripples are going to show a little wider as they get closer to the foreground. Still working upward. And this is where I did drop in a little of the magenta. And I'm going to go ahead and change up to the larger brush and come in right here at the corner and pull downward like that. And just kind of let it finish off. Okay. So, let's start working downward. Cobalt blue and the burnt sienna. Really looking for that blue. There it is. Okay, so from here downward, it's still wet. It's wonderfully wet. Just enough to add color, soft color. No. Just don't want it that dark right there. Okay, so let's go downward. So here we go. Right about here. This needs to be soft. Soft transitions. All right, I'm gonna get the number 8, the pointy one. I'm going for ultramarine blue. Just adding all these colors. And there it is. There's this wonderful line that shows up. As if it were a pencil line. Some of it is just a little too wet. But it's lovely because it's a contrast with everything. That is loose. And it just disappears into this dark area right down here. And I'm so happy with that. So there'll be more of that up here as we finish, but right now it's too wet. So let's go back and start to see what it's doing right here in the middle. Right down from this guy holding the oar. And we have some of these darker colors weaving at the edge of this wonderful, it's a reflection. And it starts to weave its way down. This is dry. The surface of my painting is dry. And this is tilting. This is pretty much ultramarine blue with maybe a little of the other mix. Oh, I'm really happy with that. You know, sometimes you just have to try things and hope for the best. And that's really what I'm doing. These are all different shapes. And this pointy brush allows for me to get the stroke that I want. Pressing down with the brush. just used what was there, everyone. And if it wasn't there, I added it. Again, these shapes all have to be different. Remember, this is going to dry lighter. And sometimes you'll realize just how close you are to your transfer, but when you're not, you just keep on going and use what is there. This is still wet, so I can drop in a little more color. And I can look for ways to connect it. So I'm happy with that. Okay, let's shore up over here underneath his shorts. Where he's connected to the water line. All this gets softened when it dries. I'm trying to stay mindful of his anatomy. Okay, where the boat meets these reflections, there's line work there. I'm just painting what I see. Knowing I can go back and subtract or soften later. So this is just a little on the linear side, and I can soften that up Maybe even drop in just a little. Oh yeah, I like that. And when this dries, we will do some of that line work. And start to pull it down. And there'll be more. Let's get some of that in. So yeah, this neutral, this is my neutral. This is the blue and the burnt sienna. It's like a bridge between the reflections, connecting everything, softening everything. And I'm happy with that. It's a pleasure to use the burnt sienna and the cobalt blue. And you'll see, let's see, right below this, there is a strong I'm so happy with that. So I can see that this blue is going to move its way through here. And just soften some of this right in here. And again, I'm just using what's here to imply and suggest. And hope for the best, right? Okay, so there are quite a few really strong ripples coming off of the man. I want to use my brush like a pencil and press down. And these do start to churn upward. Again, using my arm. And careful that my marks are a little different from one another. I keep saying that, don't I? It would be no fun if too many of these ripples looked alike, as if you did them with one brush. Okay, so just a little more work right here. Well, I want to keep going, okay? So I'm going to go to a bigger brush. I'm going to add a little more of the magenta. Right in there. I'm going to add, I don't know. No, I'm going to take a little of the brown madder, rose madder. And oh, this was the choice. good choice here. And I like that. I can drag some of it through. And soften the edges. Okay, we're gonna call this done for now. And just a little softening there and there. I will tell you this gets awfully wet, everyone. You can see that. So what I'll do is when it's just dry enough, you know, it's not puddled, I'm gonna put it under some weight overnight, and by tomorrow, it'll be flat and ready for me to work on again.